Welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Brandon, and today we're looking at Blue Archive. Now, this is a deck that I put together after some testing, actually worked out fairly well, all things considered, and I was really surprised by how well it worked out. With that in mind, I just kind of really want to go into combos and then really look at the set overall. This Hoshino, being our level 3 combo, gets experience 6 additional power, which is cool, fun, awesome. Power's not going to be super helpful for endgame, but it doesn't matter either way. When it's placed on stage, heal. But the climax combo is what you're playing it for. On attack, if the pants is in your climax zone, you could choose one of two effects: burn one or ditch two cards and burn three. Now, it does get additional power as well. Power's nice and all. Really, realistically, you're going for the damage. You're trying to close out a game. Burn three or burn one can be very lethal, especially if they're at 3-0. Two instances of three and one burn one is enough to close out the game if it all sticks. So having success so having a bunch of options to burn for three or swing for three all at the same time very much is what this deck is kind of going for here. It's trying to close out that game pretty efficiently with this. And I think the flexibility of being able to burn three or burn one allows you so much closing potential. So we play that as the top end. Our mid game combo is the Sifumi, which can be brought on early at level 2 from the Azusa, which is a pay 3 rest it to spawn the Hifumi on stage. So, not a condition in regards to characters on board or even technically level requirement here, right? But the ability to just spawn the characters with pay 3 rest. And when you place it on stage, you can choose another one to place it on stage from hand. So, you have to have them in hand to be able to make this happen. However, I think that you definitely have the ability to make this work. So spawning them from stage from hand, and then the combo itself being, as long as you have experience 4 or more, search 2, choose one to hand, one to stock, and then gets additional power afterwards. If you spawn it on stage and combo on the same turn, you're looking at 15,000 with climax, 15.5 technically, which is reasonable attack numbers for the mid game. Especially since you have to have the back row in place, you're looking at 2 lanes of 17.5. Something that breaks over most counter ranges of a lot of the big walls right now. So definitely a wall breaker in that regard. The downside that it is level 3 as opposed to level 2 when it comes down early, so anti-change is still effective against it, especially with anti-change still relatively prevalent in most sets at this point, that there's very much a potential that you can lose lanes to that. However, pay 3 to spawn 3 level 3s that can potentially combo is still pretty good in regards to the cost factor for that. And honestly, even spawning 2 for a cost of 3 is still not a bad cost for that either. So that's the important part here. Realistically, stock's not the important part for our end game. Our important part for our end game is being able to have cards in hand to burn with. So, spawn this down. Ideally, you're going to want 2 turns with this combo to get into that level 3 game. Because you're effectively turn 1, you are going neutral, right? You spawn them all from hand, play the combo, refill the hand back up. You paid 3 stock to spawn on a field. You're getting 3 additional stock off of the combo. So the combo basically goes neutral on the cards coming down on the field. However, you get the 3 stocks from the attacks. So it's like it's effectively going a little bit heavy, a little bit. It's effectively going a little bit higher into that stock count, so that way you can keep moving forward with it. This is a pretty stock heavy deck in regards to that, so being able to use that stock is helpful. So effectively, you need 4 stock for the combo, 1 for the 2-1, and then another 3 for the combo itself. To get there, run a bunch of Stock generators at 1. If you play an act, you get 1500 power and reveal the top card of the deck. If it's level 1 or higher, put it in stock. So just a way to help generate some additional stock early. There's the anti-change to help defend some of that combo. Our level 3s that we didn't talk about already is a Ditch 2 Icy Tail for bottom 4, burn 1 X times, equaling the number of Climaxes milled. So pretty effective Icy Tail with that card. It also has on play, look at X, choose 1, add to hand. X being the number of characters you have. So with the check X, the Icy Tail with Ditch 2, and the Icy Tail being in instances of 1, that's a pretty fantastic pairing with this with combo at the top, especially if you're going into a compressed deck. That is very helpful. We have the early play healer, which is a 4 more condition, gets initial 2k, so it sits at 10-5. When it's placed on stage, you can discard a card. If your experience is 6 or more, you heal 1 and then salvage 1, which I think is actually very good power creep in regards to this kind of profile. Because effectively, it's just a regular heal with a little bit of hand filter on top of it. So, hand filter heal is nice, especially when you have a pants deck. You can turn climaxes into characters or characters from combo that you didn't necessarily want into something else. It does have that. It also does run the half Fumio as well as Soul Pump, so that way if you need to push for bigger numbers, you can. So just additional tools for that top end to go off. I don't run a combo specifically outside of level 2 and up with the early play. So the level 1 stock charge potential is basically acting as a combo to help get us ready for our end game, to help us get ready for our mid game. I run 1 copy of Level Swap, just that way, make sure I guarantee my experience condition. I run this one, which allows us to be able to get up to 3-5 power. I run this as an additional power pump, but also an ability to be able to effectively turn stock into another character that I might actually prefer instead of this one. So it's just one other way to be able to mill through the deck more effectively too in that same turn. Just a very situational card for this. I run the clean cut, just 2 copies, but 2 copies is enough to be able to maybe potentially save something at 0. Not as many runners as there once was, and there's a lot of utility zeros floating around. At 3k clean cut has seemingly done a very good job of what it needs to do, especially with other power pumps to make that bigger. Definitely something worthwhile to hold on to. We're on the brainstorm as well. This is our salvage brainstorm, as well as has the ability to rest itself as long as experience is 3 or higher. I can power pump a character by 2k power. This allows me to be able to kind of help guarantee those act. Helps me really pump up those level 1s, especially if I'm in a situation where I don't want to brainstorm. I can still pump up my level 1s power wise and give the ability, even if I'm not brainstorming. The brainstorm is very much a staple, though, in the set. You're going to be running a little bit heavier into the stock generation early, so being able to convert stock into cards is going to be huge. This is the stunner, but also has the ability of being able to discard a card, put this in waiting room to choose a character from waiting room, add back to hand. This is a way of just making sure I have the characters that I specifically want out of waiting room back to hand. It's the helmet effect. I run 2 helmets effectively, as well as then the deck search one as well. It's basically helmet for deck. I want to make sure that I have my characters ready to go. It's a lot of cards from hand, but at the same time, I very much want to make sure I'm guaranteeing cards here. I also run the coin flip. When it becomes reversed in battle, I can deal the top card of the deck, and if it's a level 2 or higher, it bounces to my hand. And I also on play give something 2k power. More coin flips, more potential for the cards back to hand, which I think is really important for this deck, especially with the amount of handouts we have going into our later stages of the game. I have the Spawn Ricky, the pay 1 clock self, to be able to search for a cost 0 character whose level is equal or lower to my own level and put it on stage. So I can effectively spawn out the level 1 not combo, So I can effectively spawn out the level 1 stock charge, which means that I can also convert stock into a playable pretty efficiently with this kind of card. One for one, kind of exactly what we're looking for here. I currently only run it as a one copy of. Realistically, adjusting the zeros, maybe taking out the clean cut and putting in two more of these is probably more beneficial in the long run. I found with my testing, I only needed one because I could search it out if I absolutely needed to spawn out the stock charges. Realistically, the game progresses at a pretty decent pacing that you can get to two, get an extra turn at two, and then close at level three. The trigger pants, get the choice back to hand kind of thing is exactly kind of something that can definitely happen in this deck. So it is something definitely to keep in mind in going forward. The last card was just the Climax swap. Pay one, search your deck for the Climax, and then swap with the Climax in hand. Which also kind of means that you kind of know what Climaxes you could trigger potentially, or have a better ratio of triggering. So, but either way, it's just additional swap into the Climax you need. Climaxes are something that you're actively paying attention to anyway when you're playing Weiss. Knowing which climaxes are available to you is important with this card, but I think you're already, especially if you're playing this deck, you're playing trying to figure out where those climaxes are anyway. So you're not gonna be surprised when you do that search. But that's it. That's been the deck. Basically, thanks so much for watching. It's been a fun set to play with, and it definitely something that I would expect to see around quite a bit. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Do the YouTube thing, and until next time, have a good one.